Krishna Krishna. There we go. Something. I hear a machine chanting. Thank you. Well, it's a weird looking screen, but we'll work with it. Chapters 78 and 79 go together, you'll see. Nama Om Vishnupadaya Krishna Prestaya Bhutale Shrimate Bhaktivedanta Swami Iti Namine Namaste Saraswate Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvisesa Sanjavadi Paschatya Desatarine Jaya Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasati Gaura Bhaktivinoda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. So we're still in Dvaraka, and Balaram hasn't departed yet, because that comes later in the Srimad Bhagavatam. But Balaram is going to be going on a tour, but it's after the killing of Romaharsana. So the narration goes like this. Balaram heard that the Kurus were preparing for war with the Pandavas. Being neutral, he departed on the pretext of going to bathe in holy places. After some time, he came to the Naimisha forest, where great sages were performing an elaborate sacrifice. There's the elaborate sacrifice. Look at that. Those little bhajan kutirs look like where they spent the night, and then they did their yajna during the day. So the yajna is at the bottom, and at the top is something else. What's that something else at the top? The son of Romaharsana Sutta, namely Sutta Goswami, Romaharsana Sutta was narrating the Puranas. Some of you may remember, those of you that like to read Prabhupada's books, I'm sure you remember, that when Vyasadeva did the work of compiling the Vedas, each of the 4 Vedas were entrusted to different personalities, and the Puranas and Itihasas were entrusted to Romaharsana Sutta, and so forth and so on. So Romaharsana Sutta in this chapter is narrating. Recognizing the Lord upon his arrival, the sages, who had been engaged in their sacrificial rituals for a long time, greeted him properly by standing up, bowing down, and worshiping him, with one exception. After being thus worshipped along with his entourage, the Lord accepted a seat of honor. Then he noticed that Romaharsana, Vyasadeva's disciple, had remained seated. And Balaram took exception to this behavior. Balaram became extremely angry upon seeing how this member of the Sutta class meaning he wasn't born in a Brahmin family, but he was taking the function of a Brahmana, failed to stand up So it's okay if one is born differently, but the behavior should be what the behavior should be if you're going to take the position of the narrator before so many other sages. But he failed to stand up, bow down, or even join his palms. And also he was sitting above all the learned brahmanas. Now, we had this lively discussion the other day about Balaram's using excessive strength. Abusive, Balaram. But one of the statements that we heard Prabhupada say many times is the duty of the Kshatriya, so that he's performing a Kshatriya function because he's born in a Kshatriya family. Persons that are in the different occupational duties, especially for that matter, the brahmanas should perform their duties in a proper way, and he wasn't doing. And so, although Lord Balaram had stopped killing the impious, Romaharsana's death was inevitable. Thus, having spoken, the Lord killed him by picking up a blade of kusagrass and touching him with its tip. Whoever got killed by a blade of grass, the tip of a blade of grass, no such thing. No such thing. Except this one. All the sages cried out, "Alas! Alas!" Something like that. In great distress, they told Lord Sankarshan, "O Master, you have committed an irreligious act." "O favored of the Yadus, we gave him the seat of the spiritual master and promised him long life and freedom from physical pain for as long as the sacrifice continues." In other words, the Brahmana's words are to be upheld, and he didn't uphold the Brahmana's words. The Supreme Lord said, "The Vedas instruct us that one's own self takes birth again as one's son. Thus let Romaharsana's son Ugrashrava, Sutta Goswami, become the speaker of the Puranas, and let him be endowed with long life, strong senses, and stamina." I mean, there's some parts that are missing. Lord Balaram said, "If you want, I can bring him back to life, no problem." They said, no, what's done is done. But what do we do? So then comes this. "Please tell me your desire, O best of sages, and I shall certainly fulfill it. And, O wise souls, please carefully determine my proper atonement, since I do not know what it might be." Blank slate. "Oh, descendant of Dasharha, a fearsome demon named Balvala comes here at Naimisharanya every new moon night and contaminates our sacrifice. Please kill that sinful demon who pours down pus, blood, feces, urine, wine, and meat upon us. This is the best service you can do for us." So this is the killing of Shelva. So here's this big assembly. They're doing their yagya. Looks like Rath Yatra to me. That's the Puri in the background. But anyway, it's a nice painting. "Thereafter, for 12 months, you should circumambulate the land of Bharata in a mood of serious meditation, executing austerities and bathing at various holy pilgrimage sites. In this way, you'll become purified." So that was a pretty quick chapter. But the excitement is coming up. He's going to deal with Shelva. Before he goes on pilgrimage, which is 79, here comes Shelva. "Then, on the new moon day, O king, A fierce and frightening wind arose, scattering dust all about and spreading the smell of pus everywhere. Whew. Next, onto the sacrificial arena came a downpour of abominable things sent by Balvala, after which the demon himself appeared, trident in hand. Big copper beard, too. The immense demon resembled a mass of black carbon. His top knot and beard were like molten copper, and his face had horrible fangs and furious eyebrows, furrowed eyebrows. Commentary. His hair, beard, and mustache appeared reddish like copper, and because of his great beard and mustache, his mouth appeared dangerous and fierce. So what's Balaram going to do? He gets his weapons. And how does he get his weapons? He just thinks of them and they appear. That's pretty convenient, right? Upon seeing him, Lord Balaram thought of his club, which tears to pieces his enemies' armies, and his plow weapon, which punishes the demons. Thus summoned, his two weapons appeared before him at once. And then, with the tip of his plow, Lord Balaram caught hold of the demon Balvala as he flew through the sky, and with his club the Lord angrily struck the harasser of the Brahmanas on the head. There's Balaram getting ready to clobber him. There's the Brahmanas below, afraid of this terrible guy. Balvala cried out in agony and fell to the ground, his forehead cracked open and gushing blood. He resembled a red mountain struck by a lightning bolt. So see in the background on the right, the sages are saying Hari Bol. They're very happy what Balaram just did. So with one, his plow, he grabbed him around the neck, and with his club he bashed him in the head. The sages honored Lord Rama with sincere prayers and awarded him infallible blessings, plus the commitment he's got to go in pilgrimage. Then they performed his ritual bath, just as the demigods had bathed Indra when he killed Vritra. You all know the story of Vritra, right? Vritrasura? Anybody not know the story of Vritrasura? You don't know the story of Vritrasura. Huh?
Tell us the story.
I was going to ask somebody else to tell us the story. Who would like to tell us the story? Who's a good storyteller? Jagadananda, why don't you tell the Vritrasura story? He was hoping I would call on him.
Where do I begin?
Huh?
Where do I begin? And
Keep it simple.
keep it simple, okay. Yeah. Once Indra was Indra? No, somebody was Vishwaroop, and the Vishwaroop got killed. Vishwaroop's father, he wanted to perform a yajna that would kill Indra, because Indra beheaded Vishwaroop. There is some more before that, but we'll just begin there. So Tvashta, he performed a sacrifice, and the intent was to create a demon, who would kill Indra. But while he did so, there was a small discrepancy in the utterance of the mantras. So he created a demon, Indra Shatroho, who would be killed by Indra. Anyway, so from that beautiful sacrifice, this amazing personality Vritrasura came, and Vritrasura and Indra, they engaged in a long battle, and Vritrasura could not be killed by Indra. Indra, then he goes to Lord Vishnu. Lord Vishnu sends him to Dadichi, asking him for his body and create a weapon and use that to kill Vritrasura. Very beautiful, one of my favorite pastimes. I'm glad Maharaj called me super soul.
Panic-stricken too.
Yeah. Yeah.
I read the signal wrong. I thought you were hoping you'd be called on.
Yeah. Anyway, beautiful exchange. Vritrasura is instructing Indra as they are fighting. Indra is running away from the battlefield, and showing the back and all that. And Vritrasura is instructing him, and he's telling him, "Kill me, and you will get what you want, and I'll get what I want." Okay, what does that mean? So anyway, so he knew that he would go back home, back to Godhead. I'm skipping many details, and there's Vritrasura Chaturshloki that comes at the end of 17th chapter, I think. Then after hearing all this, Vritrasura, then Maharaj Parikshit obviously asked, who is this Vritrasura? He seems like a demon, but he's a great devotee of the Lord. And then the Chitraketu pastime is narrated. So Vritrasura was Chitraketu in his previous life. And coincidentally, Chitraketu is a worshipper of Sankarsana.
Hey.
So it's a nice way.
Yeah, it's a nice connection. Okay. And in case you didn't catch all that, now you'll be enthusiastic to go back home and read the Bhagavatam. And you won't find that in Krishna book. You'll find that in the Bhagavatam. Protect the universe at your will, and may all your desires be fulfilled. Of course, this is Brahmanas giving Balaram a benediction. He doesn't require Brahmanas' benedictions, but they're inspired. They gave Lord Balaram a Vaijayanti victory garland of unfading lotuses, in which resided the goddess of fortune. And they also gave him a set of divine garments and jewelry. So the Brahmanas gave him gifts. Usually it's the other way around, but that's okay, because he protected them. Vaijayanti garlands have 5 different colors. That's a detail. And it's understood that both Nityananda and Lord Chaitanya, he went on this pilgrimage and he followed the same path, or Lord Chaitanya and Nityananda followed the same path that Lord Balaram had followed. So we're going to hear about that path after Romaharsana and Selva. Given leave by the sages, the Lord went with a contingent of Brahmanas to the Kaushiki river, where he bathed. From there he went to the lake from which flows the river Sarayu, celebrated river in Ramayana. The Lord then followed the course of the Sarayu until he came to Prayag, where he bathed and then performed rituals to propitiate the demigods and other living beings. Yesterday we had this little discussion about Krishna worshipping Shiva. We heard this interesting Brahma Vaivarta Purana description of how that came to be. And other situations where Krishna worshipped a Brahmana or a great devotee. So it's not unprecedented, and it's not like to get some material favors either. So he's propitiating the demigods. There's some details described in the commentary. There's a way that the devatas are propitiated. There's a certain kind of offering water and sesame seeds, pretty easy to come by, and making those offerings to the devatas and sages. This he did in Prayag. Next he went to the ashram of Pulaha Rishi. And that's all it says in the Bhagavatam, so I had to do some research. Where's Pulaha Rishi's ashram? And the answer is it's in Haridwar, near the source of the Gandaka, or the Gandaki. So we go way up north. Lord Balaram bathed in the Gomati, Gandaki, and Vipasha rivers, and also immersed himself in the Sona. He went to Gaya, where he worshipped his forefathers, and to the mouth of the Ganges, where he performed purifying ablutions. So this painting is not necessarily depicting any one of those places. It's just a nice painting by the side of a river. And so he's really moving quickly. The range of territory he covered was quick. I mean, the mouth of the Ganges. We're going to Badrinath, but I don't think we're going all the way to the mouth of the Ganges. I don't think so. The Shona River is still running as one of the big rivers in Bihar. At Mount Mahendra, he saw Lord Parashuram and offered him prayers. And then he bathed in the 7 branches of the Godavari River, and also in the rivers Vena and Bhimarati and Lake Pampa. So some of these places we're familiar with, from Ramayana at least, and other places. Then Lord Balaram met Lord Skanda, who we heard who Samba is. Samba is an incarnation of Kartikeya, but he met Kartikeya, the younger son of Lord Shiva and military commander, at Sri Shaila. Sri Shaila is a South Indian holy place. The abode of Lord Girisha, or Shiva, the Guna avatar. So this is the temple, the painting at least of the temple. And then there's the deity of Lord Shiva, the Shivalinga, and the serpents around the top of the Shivalinga, and Nandi, the bull. It's just a painting to indicate the place. And there's Lord Shiva, and they're riding a peacock, that's Kartikeya. He has a fancy car. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, we heard this, those that read Chaitanya Charitamrita, he also met Lord Shiva and Durga at Sri Shaila, but Balaram did as well. And in the background of this painting, there's Lord Brahma, and there's Indra. In the southern provinces, known as Dravida Desh, the Supreme Lord saw the sacred Venkata Hill. Now this is an actual photograph of some of the temples in this region. Tirumala, or Balaji. And who's this? Balaji. And who's this? Balaji. As well as the cities of Kamakoshni and Kanchi along the exalted Kaveri River. Kaveri River we hear in Chaitanya Charitamrita because that's the place where, near the place where Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and Ramananda Roy met. So it gives us an idea of where we are in South India. And the most holy Sri Ranga, where Lord Krishna has manifested himself. Now, Lord Narayana, but this is the language of the Bhagavatam, where Lord Krishna has manifested himself. So the deities, these deities mentioned, they were existing during the time of Balaram. We should understand that. And there's history of each of those. From there he went to Rishabh Mountain, where Lord Krishna also lives, and to the southern Mathura. Southern Mathura, it has a little asterisk. It's Madurai in South India, so that's the southern Mathura. He then came to Setubandha, where the most grievous sins are destroyed. Setubandha is where the arrangement of the bridge going to Lanka began, Setubandha. So here's a little asterisk of southern Mathura's Madurai. In that place, Madurai, there's a deity of Durga known as Meenakshi. It's a celebrated temple, very, very popular temple. When we had a South India yatra, we went to many of these places. Not all, but many of these places. Because we just followed the path that Chaitanya Mahaprabhu followed. And when we did that, I wasn't aware, because there's much more information in Chaitanya Charitamrita where Lord Chaitanya went. But the indication is it's the same path, essentially, that Balaram went. Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur writes, after bathing at Ganga Sagara, Balaram should have gone to Sri Purushottam Kshetra or Jagannath Puri, which is nearby, but Balaram didn't go there. According to Vaishnava Toshani, is either Jiva Goswami's commentary or Sanatana Goswami's commentary that he wrote a commentary on. I don't know which one. Balaram wanted to avoid the embarrassment of having to worship himself among the forms of Krishna, Balabhadra, and Subhadra. And there they are. Majestic deities in Jagannath Puri. Then, at Setubandha, or Rameshwaram, Balaram, Lord Halayudha, gave Brahmanas 10,000 cows in charity. Now, where did he get the 10,000 cows to give in charity? Doesn't say. He then visited Kritamala and Tamraparni rivers and the great Malya mountains, very celebrated places, all very celebrated. He's just doing what the Brahmanas said. So you see in the background, those big mountains, that's the Malaya mountains, celebrated mountains in South India. After killing Balvala, Balaram continued to carry the plow in order to protect the Brahmanas' families wherever he went. Commentary. In the Malaya range, Lord Balaram found Agastya Rishi, sitting in meditation. After bowing down to the sage, the Lord offered him prayers and then received blessings from him. And then, this is a nice place we visited, taking leave from Agastya, proceeded to the shore of the southern ocean, where he saw the goddess Durga in her form of Kanyakumari. Now, it takes a while to get to this place, but that's a nice place. Very pristine, very clean, very, very nice place. The temple of Kanyakumari was also visited by Lord Ramachandra. And therefore it is to be understood that the temple has been existing for millions of years. And then he went to Palguna Tirtha and bathed in the sacred Panchapsara lake, where Lord Vishnu had directly manifested himself at this place, he gave away another 10,000 cows. Of course, he can just manifest cows. He can do anything. The Supreme Lord then traveled through the kingdoms of Kerala and Trigarta before visiting Lord Shiva's sacred city of Gokarna, where Lord Durjati, or Lord Shiva, directly manifests himself. After also visiting goddess Parvati, who dwells on an island, Lord Balaram went to the holy district of Shurparaka, and bathed in the Tapi, Payoshni, and Nirvindya rivers. He next entered Dandaka forest and went to the river Reva, along which the city of Mahishmati is found. He then bathed in Manutirtha, or at Manutirtha, and finally returned to Prabhas, where his journey had begun. So that means Prabhas is very near to the same place where this Romaharsana Sutta was killed, or where that yagya was being performed, apparently. I don't know the geography. Dandakaranya forest is where Ramchandra lived while in exile. We know that one. At Prabhas, the Lord heard from some brahmanas how all the kings involved in the battle between the Kurus and the Pandavas had been killed. From this he concluded that the earth was now relieved of her burden. And he heard about the battle that was going on between his two disciples. Wanting to stop the club fighting raging between Bhima and Duryodhana on the battlefield, Lord Balaram went to Kurukshetra. And he made an appeal. When Yudhishthira, Lord Krishna, Arjuna, and the twin brothers Nakula and Sahadev saw Lord Balaram, they offered him respectful obeisances, but said nothing. Thinking, what has he come here to tell us? Commentary. The reason they were silent was that Lord Balaram was somewhat affectionate towards Duryodhana, who had learned from Balaram Ji the art of fighting with a club. Thus, when the fighting was going on, King Yudhishthira and the others thought that Balaram might have come there to say something in favor of Duryodhana, and therefore they remained silent. But that's not what happened. Lord Balaram found Duryodhana and Bhima with their clubs in their hands, each furiously striving for victory over the other. As they circled about skillfully, the Lord addressed them as follows. We heard this one. Here's what he said. King Duryodhana and Bhima, listen, you two warriors are equal in fighting prowess. I know that one of you has greater physical power, the other is better trained in technique. Since you are so evenly matched in fighting prowess, I do not see how either of you can win or lose. Therefore, please stop. And neither of them listened. I mean, if one of them listened, that would have been a problem, but this is Vishwanath. Bhima is greater in physical strength, and Duryodhana is greater in knowledge of club fighting. That's exactly what Vedavati said the other day. The difference of the two. It's right there on the screen. Vishwanath. Shukadev's continuing. They did not accept Balaram's request, although it was logical. for their mutual enmity was irrevocable. Each of them constantly remembered the insults and injuries he had suffered from the other. Now we know very well what insults and injury the Pandavas received from Duryodhana, and I don't know vice versa. But in any case, they continued fighting and fighting and fighting and fighting. So there we see in the background of this little illustration, there's Balaram with his plow, and others are watching the battle, spectators. And it was the conclusion of Balaram, this is just arranged by Krishna. And so Balaram went back to Dvaraka. So that's his 1 year of pilgrimage fulfilled, bathing in the holy places and visiting the holy places for purpose of atonement for having killed Romaharsana Sutta. And when he went back to Dvaraka, he was received with great celebration. They were really, really happy to see him. Mentioned specifically, Vasudeva, Pradumna, they all came out of the city to receive him. A little different than his reception in Hastinapur. Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur comments on this word fate, dishtam, that the battle between these two had been enjoined by Krishna and set into motion by him, and so be it. Then, after visiting Dvaraka, Lord Balaram returned to Naimisharanya, where the sages joyfully engaged him, the embodiment of all sacrifice, in performing various kinds of Vedic sacrifice. Lord Balaram was now retired from warfare. Yay! And the Kurukshetra battle is over, and etc., etc. The all-powerful Lord Balaram bestowed upon the sages pure spiritual knowledge, by which they could see the whole universe within him, and see also him pervading everything. Pretty amazing, huh? They directly realized the universe within the Lord, since he was not different from it, and that the Lord was spread everywhere in the universe as Antaryami. What a benediction, huh? After executing with his wife the Avirbhrita ablutions, that's after the completion of a yajna, there's some sacred bath. So the sages had finished their yajna. The beautifully dressed and ornamented Lord Balaram, encircled by his immediate family and other relatives and friends, looked as splendid as the moon, surrounded by its effulgent rays. Beautiful painting, Balaram. Almost done. Countless other pastimes were performed by mighty Balaram, the unlimited and immeasurable Supreme Lord, whose mystic Yogamaya power makes him appear to be a human being. Now it speaks of his mystic Yogamaya power, and I think it's worthy of a comment that it's Krishna's mystic Yogamaya power, because sometimes the Yogamaya power covers Balaram. But it's, it's a gift from Krishna, or his expansion. Balaram shares some feature of directing Yogamaya, of course, ultimately under the direction of the personality of Godhead, the Karanam, the cause of all causes. So it gets a little complicated, just in a little philosophy. It gets a little complicated when you read something here or understand something there, and it's, the relationship of cause and effect is stated, and then somewhere else there's some other cause of that same effect. And then somewhere else there's another cause of that same effect. And so is it this, that, or the other? You ever found yourself in that dilemma sometimes? And that doesn't mean if it's stated in Scripture, then it's got to be wrong. If it's stated in Scripture, it's got to be right. So if there's an apparent contradiction, just follow the thread. The thread is there's this cause of all causes. Here's a really easy example. For example, in the Brahma Samhita, there's this nice description of Durga. And Durga is attributed in that verse to have the power to create, maintain, and annihilate the whole cosmic manifestation. Shrishti, Siti, Pralaya, Sadhana, Shakti, Reka, Chayeva, Yashabhuvanani, Vibharti, Durga. So she does all those things. But does she do Shrishti? I thought Lord Vishnu does Shrishti. He does the primary creation. So is it her or is it him? Or is it the cause of all causes, Krishna, that does? So there's three options. If this one's right, can those two be wrong? Because they're stated in scriptures. So it's just there's a cause of all causes. Behind the cause of all causes, there's a supreme person, and the supreme person worked through his expansions and extensions. Just this morning, I was listening to Prabhupada in Tokyo, 1973 or something like that, describing how he has personally manifested the Hare Krishna movement. Mm-hmm. And he explains he was strongly disagreeing with the material conception that there isn't a controller behind everything. So I'm one person, and I have, I'm spreading Krishna. I am given the credit for spreading Krishna consciousness around the world. But I have many people who are helping me. And I couldn't be able to do it without those many people helping me. So, but he gets the credit. But the movement of the people helping him is from the person who's asking, go left or go right. Direction comes from the controller or the leader. So Krishna is similarly, Krishna is the cause of all causes, and he has many agencies and entities and expansions and all kinds of things through whom he acts. Some in this category, some in that category. So the detail is, I'm just going on this, who is mystic yoga power, yoga maya power, makes him appear to be a human being. Well, that mystic yoga maya power is Krishna's yoga maya power, but acting in a way that enables Lord Balaram to appear like this. So it's his mystic power. It's his mystic Yogamaya power. Indirectly. Indirectly, it's Krishna's. That was a little detour just to... From public speaking, I've grown accustomed to people asking the yeah but questions. So yeah, that little sidetrack was just anticipating, wait a minute. Balaram was under the Yogamaya power of Krishna, so he couldn't recognize Krishna had manifested himself as all the calves and cowherd boys. But here is speaking of Balaram's mystic Yogamaya power makes him appear to be a human being. So is it his or not? Yeah, but. And a little bit of what we were saying yesterday. Why are we doing all this? And the nice explanation at the end of the last chapter of the entire 10th canto, Prabhupada gives the answer why we're doing all this. By hearing again and again the pastimes of Krishna and Balaram, one develops an attachment for them. And by developing that attachment from them, that's the passageway to entrance into that which we're attached to. If we're attached to them, we go to them. That's why we're doing, so many different narrations. All the activities of the unlimited Lord Balaram are amazing. Balaram's actions are astonishing. Adbhuta. Karmanaha. For example, he increases Duryodhana's pride, which was the cause of his death. Anyone who regularly remembers them at dawn and dusk will become very dear to the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Sri Vishnu. And it's any other time of the day works too, by the way. One who regularly remembers the amazing pastimes of Balaram at dawn and dusk will become very dear to Krishna, the younger brother of Balaram. Naturally so. And that's our section on chapters 78 and 79. And there's one more session, but I think I'll have to cover it in a different way. And that's the marriage of their sister, Subhadra. It's a very nice description. I think that's what I'll do this evening. Not with PowerPoint, just describe the very nice exchange. So let's see if there's discussion. Yes?
How many wives did Balaram have?
2.
Only 2?
Only 2. How many wives did Nityananda have? 2. The same 2. No, not only 2. 2. The same 2. Yeah.
All right, Krishna Maharaj, thank you very much for the class and classes. So, a little bit long. I'll try to make it coherent. So Romaharsana being, killed with the kusha grass.
Yeah.
Everyone else got up, offered respects to Lord Balaram. So something that's maybe puzzled me over the years is, how did he know or not know that Balaram was supreme and to be worshipped? So, and I can understand maybe he was in ignorance and pride and things of that nature. But then yesterday we were hearing about how when Balaram went to basically try to mediate the issue with Samba and the kidnapping of Lakshmana, when he first came, he was insulted by people who've known him for a long time.
When he first came, he was treated with great respect.
Okay, gotcha. So all right, so I'm forgetting that part. Then he was insulted, but then when he pulled Hastinapur to the river, they realized, oh, wow. It's apparent that he's somebody super special.
Yeah, not only wow, the things that they said indicated the wow. So how did it get covered so fast? You're answering your own question. Mm-hmm. What was it that covered them so fast? Starts with a P. Pride.
And so that's basically the Romaharsana.
Yeah. Look, I'm speaking the scripture. And I'm speaking the scripture. I don't get down from the speaker's seat and pay obeisances to anybody. I'm speaking the scripture. Mm-hmm. It's like somebody's worshiping the deity. Mm-hmm. And somebody's worshiping the deity. I remember specifically, Prabhupada came into the temple room one time when Rukmini was worshiping Radha Govinda. And she was in a dilemma. I'm offering the arti to Radha Govinda. And Prabhupada just came in the temple room. What should I do? She did what a disciple does. She stopped the arti, got off the altar, because there's a step down. At that time, it was just a little step. She stepped down, paid obeisance, and returned. And she asked Prabhupada later, what should I do in a situation like that? You did the right thing. Now, normally you don't stop. Yajnas you don't stop in the middle of. Deity worship, normally that's the normally. And then there's the exception to the normally. And Romaharsana, being the speaker, at whose feet many brahmanas and sages were seated, should have known what's what, but he didn't. So he's taking the position inappropriately because he does not qualify.
And it's maybe even arguable that he's seen everyone else at the assembly offering the worship and praise, and he's choosing to.
But because I'm the speaker, so I just keep sit on my seat.
Thank you.
Hare Krishna Maharaji. So as Lakshmana was supporting Lord Rama in every steps for the establishment of dharma, but in contrast, Lord Balarama, he chose to be neutral when it comes to Duryodhana.
When it came to?
Duryodhana. So was he supporting Lord Krishna by being neutral, for example, by increasing the pride of Duryodhana or something?
I commented on this yesterday 3 times. Do you remember? Like, how did he... After Duryodhana offended Balaram, the way that Duryodhana offended Balaram, and they went back into, after speaking harsh words about him and about the Ugrasena and about Krishna, and they just disrespectfully went back in the city and like stuck your tongue out at him or something. And then he wants Duryodhana to marry the sister, and the sister doesn't want to marry Duryodhana. Something's wrong with that picture. We talked about it, remember? You weren't there?
No, I wasn't.
You were there. Okay, so the understanding, my understanding is quite simple. Leela Shakti. Then there's this whole discussion. What's the relationship between Yoga Maya and Leela Shakti? Is there a relationship between the two? And the answer is yes. So in Vrindavan, it's like personified. Yoga Maya in Vraja Leela, Purnamasi. Leela Shakti in Vraja Leela, Vrinda Devi. And they're their team. They get together, the captain calls the play, and the quarterback runs the play. That's Vrinda Devi. So Leela Shakti makes things happen the way they're supposed to happen. So it's Krishna's plan to enjoy, and he's not worried that our younger sister doesn't want to marry Duryodhana. It's not going to happen because he's the controller. So it makes it look like it's going to happen. It's his pastime, Leela Shakti. Otherwise, it doesn't make any sense. It's not just fine because he has some partiality towards Duryodhana. There's much more to. There's deeper than that. He does, but that's not why he did what he did. Because he's a bum. To marry your sister, come on. Yoga Maya, Subhadra, come on. Balaram, get with it. Leela Shakti, what can I do? Okay?
Thank you.
Behind you. No.
Maharaj, I just want to clarify on the sequence of these 2 events. Like
the which?
The sequence of these 2 events, like
Which 2?
like Subhadra getting married with Arjuna,
Yeah.
and Balaram going to Hastinapur to rescue Sambha. So this event, Subhadra getting married with Arjuna, was much before than this, right?
No.
Isn't it?
No.
It's after.
Yes. I mean, in terms of the chronology of the Bhagavatam, it's after, but sometimes the Bhagavatam doesn't recite things in chronological order. Okay?
Thank you, Maharaj.
So, Hare Krishna Maharaji. So, I have another question, like
Another
always.
question.
Yes. So, like, is it possible for someone to, like, always be peaceful, like, all the time and not, like, get angry, like Sri Ram?
Are you telling me that Lord Ramachandra never got angry?
I mean, he did,
Of
but,
course he did.
like, he was, like, he kept his emotions, like, really, like, calm and stable most of the times. Like, is it possible to, like, do that?
Are you aspiring for that? What do you want? You want to be a transcendentalist, or you want to be a Shantivada? Become a Buddhist. You just try for perpetual Shanti. We don't do that. Now, let's take Srila Prabhupada. He was very tolerant, but sometimes he would be very strong. So as needed, the higher position than always be peaceful is to be what Krishna wants you to be, to do that which Krishna wants you to do. And if it's appropriate to speak something strongly, then to please Krishna, you do. And if it's appropriate to not speak something strongly, you don't. That's the higher principle than always being peaceful. You do what Krishna wants. Now, how are you going to know what Krishna wants if you're a conditioned soul? Answer, you won't. So then you strive for being always peaceful. But, you and I are being trained up to become lovers of Krishna, and according to what Krishna wants. Here's a nice example. There's two nice examples. I mentioned one of them yesterday with Harikesh and Prabhupada and Shruti Kirti and Prabhupada. And Prabhupada liked not everyone to be like that. Another Prabhupada story, this is from Brahmatirtha yesterday. Shruti Kirti and Prabhupada are riding in a plane together, international travel. And in the same first class compartment, there were some rugby players that were smoking cigarettes. You're not supposed to smoke cigarettes in airplanes. I mean, even if you're an addicted cigarette smoker, it's like against the law. You're supposed to not do that. So they started smoking. The stewardess came along and told them to stop smoking. So they put their cigarette away, the stewardess went away, and they started smoking again. And Shruti Kirti wanted to get up and request them, please don't smoke. And Prabhupada stopped him and said, what's the difference between you and them if you can't be tolerant? Now, how many times did Prabhupada speak about not smoking? Because it's hazard to your health and it's tamagun and stuff like that. But, he was teaching a lesson. So sometimes you're tolerant, sometimes you would speak strongly. And which is better, being always peaceful or being ready to do what's appropriate for the circumstance? And how do you know what's appropriate for the circumstance? If you're connected to Super Soul, you know. And otherwise, you're guided by scripture and Guru and Sadhu. That's better. Now, back to your question: is it possible? Not really. You can become pablamized. You become like take a little tablet and just become peaceful all the time. But when the tablet runs off, it's just like do some meditation and you become very peaceful. And when the effects of that meditation subside, and then it's business as usual again, because it's artificial. The soul isn't always peaceful. The soul is active, and sometimes in activity, sometimes. So emotion is fine, and we are encouraged to direct our emotion towards that which is pleasing to Krishna. And that takes some practice and purity and guidance. Little help from Super Soul too, so that intelligence is given to direct the mind when to and when not to, when to speak, when to remain silent, when to just be tolerant, and when to speak up. There's some standards. So supposing somebody's being injured, you speak up. Okay?
Thank you, Maharaji.
Back in the corner.
Hare Krishna Maharaj. Thank you for the wonderful class. My question is related to
The questions and answers the best part. Go ahead.
My question is related to the story that you mentioned of Mother Rukmani coming off the altar and
Yes.
paying obeisances to Srila Prabhupada.
Yes.
And Prabhupada said that's the right thing to do.
Yes.
I was thinking that according to the etiquette, it's described that you don't pay obeisances to spiritual master in front of the deities. So, and also I read somewhere, I think maybe it's Nectar Devotion, that says that it is okay sometimes when you're worshipping the deities and a devotee comes, it's better to serve the devotee rather than deities. So how do we understand all of this, Maharaj?
These are there's two things. That they're very subtle, and like we discussed about Dhenukasura, there's Shushma Buddhi, there's very subtle, and there's very gross. It takes subtle intelligence to understand. And it's not always easy to have subtle intelligence to understand this circumstance, that circumstance. So it's not an always situation, it's a subtle variance of situation and the person, the time, place, circumstance.
I was just thinking that maybe it was Srila Prabhupada at that time, because
Yeah.
he came to West and he wanted to give that principle of respecting a spiritual master. Yeah, I'm speculating, but is that the reason that he said yes to that?
Well, and it could have been personal, between him and her. It's possible. It could have been something else. It could have been Prabhupada was training us by training her that the subordinate to any rule is respect of the spiritual master. When you see the spiritual master, you pay obeisances regardless of any other rule. That's the rule that supersedes the other rules. And perhaps there was a principle that he wanted to train his disciples at that time. And then later, it's certainly permissible if in a different circumstance it was a different instruction because of a further refinement of etiquette. So there's no need to which of that, and then maybe 6 other options are the right ones to choose from the menu of options. The instruction was what the instruction was. And now your question is how to refine it. And it takes intelligence and training. And different circumstances can result in different behaviors. So it's a safe principle. I would say this. It's a safe principle that what Prabhupada said to Rukmini applies to most of us. And there may be exceptions to how it would apply in all circumstances to all of us at all times. But it's a principle that I feel safe, at least, accepting. It's a principle to be followed. acknowledging there may be other circumstances.
So Maharaj, like an acharya there are
He
rules
can
that
adjust.
Rupa Goswami has
He
given,
can
he can
adjust.
adjust. Okay, yeah.
He can adjust.
Thank you, Maharaj.
So somebody's hand over here.
Hare Krishna, Guru Maharaj. Just going on from what Prabhu Divananda just said, so would it be imperative for the GBC to kind of say, if your spiritual master comes in the temple and you are on the altar, it's okay
That was
to...
you're just repeating what Rukmini told me, what happened when she was performing arti.
Right. No, but I'm just wondering if, because like he was saying, and I mean, after that, Prabhupada must have come into a temple room many times and the pujari might not have offered obeisances to him. So I'm just wondering, is it something which is, the time has come for it to be...
The circumstance, there was a detail. Prabhupada, they were expecting Prabhupada to come from the airport, but he arrived sooner than was expected. So there was nobody in the temple room.
Oh,
It was just Radha Govinda and Rukmini, and
I see.
Prabhupada came in with whoever was with him, but straight up to see the deity. And there wasn't a kirtan, there wasn't anything. It was just the three of them, Radha Govinda, Rukmini, and Prabhupada. And what to do. Now, the normal situation is Prabhupada would come at a time for greeting the deities and everyone would know what to do. So it was the exceptional circumstance, and she did what she did and asked what she asked, and Prabhupada answered what he answered. And then comes, how does this apply to all circumstances? That was where we are right now. So now you want to add?
Actually, I have a question, but just going on that, for all of us who are here currently, what would you advise us that one of us is on the altar and you entered the temple room? Would you be okay if we offer obeisances to you and then continue with our...
I would say the right thing to do is to follow what Prabhupada said. Not just put it on me. The right thing to do is what Prabhupada says.
Okay.
On the authority of Prabhupada said. From a very reliable source.
All right.
Not just
Whimsical.
something
Yes.
goofy. I heard one class, somebody said... Okay, now,
Yeah, no.
back to your question.
My question actually was, when we first started and you told us about how Lord Balaram, when he, for chastising or for the disrespect which Romaharsana committed, he was slain, and then he very calmly took the advice of the sages.
Yes.
And said, okay, I'm going to go for a whole year.
A whole year.
So why was Lord Balaram feeling that he was feeling so, and the one thing you told us was that he was not a Brahman also. He was
right.
a
He was Sutta.
Sutta. And the sages are saying, you killed a Brahmana, which he actually was not a Brahmana, and then he actually accepted the 1 year kind of
Atonement.
atonement. So how do we understand that Lord Balaram is taking this atonement?
Well, it's a lila. It's just a whitewash. It's a lila. My understanding is not just that he killed Romaharsana, but the real big thing, this is my understanding, is they had already given a benediction, and Balaram killing him, it transgressed the benediction. And the Lord is always very careful to uphold, Hiranyakashipu can't be killed this way, that way, the other way, and the other way, and stand on your head and turn sideways. So he upheld it because it was the benediction given by Lord Brahma. It's one of the functions of the personality of Godhead. How do the Brahmana's words get strength? Because the Lord upholds. That's my understanding of the violation. And the atonement was from them because their word was violated. So the atonement, it's not like purification, it's just atonement, which is not the same. It's close, but it's not the same. And it's a Leela. It gave him the chance to go to places and purify those places, like Lord Chaitanya, going to purify those places, that become purified, to purify those places. And he showed by example how you become purified when you go to those places. It's an instructional Leela. That's my understanding. There may be other layers and other layers. Okay? Over here.
Okay, thank you, Maharaj.
Jai Shila.
Hare Krishna Maharaj. Going back to the question about when a devotee or someone, pujari,
When what?
when a pujari is offering worship to the deities, arti ceremony, and a spiritual master walked in, what should you do?
It's the same question again.
Yeah, I've asked this question to two different personalities before,
Okay.
and they said at that time you mentally offer obeisances.
That's an option.
After you finish, you go outside and you offer obeisances.
That's a nice option.
Janani Prabhu told me.
Huh?
Janani Prabhu told me that.
Okay. Okay. That's a nice answer. It's a very nice answer. Because mentally offering obeisances is offering obeisances. It's not the same, but it's offering obeisances. Just like you can worship the deity within the mind. One can offer obeisances. It's then mantra, in addition to in the mind, is mantra. Jagatananda, go right ahead.
Hare Krishna. Yeah, just to continue what Divyananda Prabhu said. Yeah, so it is.
Troublemaker.
Yeah. No, it is definitely mentioned in Nectar of Devotion, what all he said, and Prabhupada knew all that. And I've heard that on purpose, Prabhupada, to amplify the Acharya Upasana principle, he did that. And from what I understand, the sequence of Srila Prabhupada was, he would come for the Darshanarthi, so the deity greetings.
Yeah.
The deities would be open, and then Srila Prabhupada would be on the Vyasasana.
Yes.
The Guru Puja would happen in front of the altar
Yes.
when the curtains were open, and then Prabhupada would give class.
Yes.
Just to amplify the Acharya Upasana principle, for the people of Kali Yuga. Yeah, that's what I understand.
Okay, he's happy. I like the Jananivas answer also very much. Very nice answer.
Maharaj, this question is from yesterday's class. Like I saw in the slides, it was mentioned that Jambavati is the most enriched wife of Krishna. I think I got it right.
Enriched.
Yeah, enriched. I didn't understand that when compared to Rukmini.
Or Satyabhama.
Yeah, or Satyabhama, yeah. What is that enriched?
I don't know. I don't know. Much of what you saw on the screen is just commentary cut and paste. And the explanation of what is enriched means wasn't in the commentary, so I can't comment on the commentary. He had, to say comparative superlative is one thing, but what is the meaning of enriched? Krishna's affection was strong towards Jambavati. That much we can say. Enriched by Krishna's affection for her. So, wait a minute. This is the yeah, but question. Yeah, but he is equal to everyone, isn't he? So how can he have enriched affection towards one and not equal to all the others? And it's natural that there is special affection. Maybe at different times special affection for this one, another time special affection for that one. That's also possible. But in a general sense, he had special affection for her. And the comment that we heard the other day is because he had special affection for her, he had special affection for Samba also. Okay. Looks like we're done. You have something else? Previous class. Dhenukasura. Okay.
Share something which I came upon. And I came upon this the day after you had given the Dhenukasura class and presentation, and I was watching this little Krishna video with my granddaughter, and in that pastime of Dhenukasura came up, and I was very interestingly watching, and it said something about that Thalavan is actually the orchard of King Kamsa. And
say it again. Thalavan is the what?
Orchard.
Author?
Orchard, like fruit orchard. Fruit orchard.
I don't know anything about it.
No, I'm just saying what they said. So that Thalavan was actually the fruit orchard of Kamsa, and the fruits growing there were specially guarded by Dhenukasura, and that even demigods like Indra would come to get the nectar from those fruits and take them back to the heavenly planets, and that King Kamsa would specifically just those fruits were kept just for him, and the nectar was transported to his palace and stuff. I don't know where this came from, but
I don't either. So rather than bringing up something like this, before bringing up something like this, because then it spins in people's minds, I recommend for this, and then in future, I heard somewhere in some class, or I saw in a kid's video, write a little note to the producer. Try it. And sometimes people respond. And sometimes they'll say, oh, I don't know how it got in there either. Or maybe they'll say, this is the reference. But it's a good principle for you and for all of us. Before you say, what's the source?
because in this, all of the things, pastimes are pretty, you can say, seems authentic, and it says
okay, but
Bhagavad
this is weird.
Yeah, I was kind of
so before repeating it, now that you've said it, now you have an assignment. Write to the producer of that thing and ask them. You can even use my name, or the sannyasi visiting us here in Alachua or something wanted to know what's the source. What's the authority behind that little piece that's in your video?
Right.
Could you mind sharing that with us?
Okay, I'll ask.
Polite, not challenging.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay, Srila Prabhupada ki jai.